Cool. All right, let's kick things off. Okay, so hey Lucy, brilliant. So Lucy, Susie, I saw Fran, I saw Jordan. I can't see everyone, but just take a big wave. Okay. Just to explain, I'm wearing the headset so you guys can hear me clearly. I'm not sneakily playing Xbox on the side. I am going to go through tonight's presentation, which is understanding weight loss and nutrition. Okay, so the aim of today is basically breaking it down a little bit. We're going to go through understanding what you really want, understanding what your goals are, okay, what that means, and how it influences the things that you do. Okay, so in a sense of making sure you're pursuing the right kind of thing when you go on. Okay, look into what to prioritize. This is probably the biggest tripping point we have for a lot of people on their weight loss journey. Okay, it's very easy to get caught up on the minutiae of things. So what I'm going to do is go through what we call the pyramid of importance, help explain how that's relevant in the sense of what to look for, what to adjust initially, okay, to get good, quick, and easy results. All right, that's really important that it's easy. Then we'll go down, we'll look at what to expect. I think this is certainly an area I've not really covered ever in any nutrition presentation before. And essentially what it's going to do is how to understand what kind of rate of weight loss you can get, what kind of muscle gain you can get, if that, well, I've already given a bit away, but it might be muscle gain of what you're after. So really understanding the science behind it, the influences, the factors, and give you a good, clear idea of how to know if you're on the right kind of journey and all of that. And then we'll look at how to adjust things based upon the results that you're getting. Okay, what you might find works at the beginning may not work as you go on. Okay, so we'll talk about that, and then I'll mop up any questions that you guys have had, and I'll try and go back and look through all the comments and go through there. So if you do have any particular questions, drop them in the comments straight away. I will look through them at the end. If you save your question to the end, there is a bit of a delay on this live stream, so I may not see it. So just as soon as you get a question, pop it in. I may even be able to address it on the fly. I think I could do that if I'm that coordinated. All right, cool. So let's kick things off. Okay. Understanding your goal. Find out what you really mean by the term or the phrase losing weight. Okay. Quite often we'll hear in the gym people say, "Oh, I want to lose weight," but it's breaking that down into what we actually mean by it. So some people might want to lose weight to feel healthier. Okay, cool. That's totally worth pursuing. Okay. Some people want to lose weight to fit into clothes. Okay. So you get, ladies into a little black dress, guys get down a jean size, that kind of thing. So really it's an appearance-based goal. Some of you may want to pack on a little bit of muscle. Okay. And again, as I said in the intro, that might actually be a better goal for you to pursue, depending on where you're at with things. Okay. And some people want to be shredded with visible abs, that kind of thing, get really, really lean. Okay. So it's very important that we sit back and we actually look at how we view our goal, because losing weight isn't just a case of getting smaller. Okay. The scales can only give you so much information. Okay. So with each of these goals, we can break it down a little bit and we can look at some of the markers involved. Okay. And actually really start to sort of break apart what you really mean. Okay. So a few questions that are worth asking yourself. Okay. If you want to lose a few kilos, what do you picture this as? Okay. It might be, I want to get ready for the beach for the summer. Okay. How do you want to look or feel? I know certainly working with many clients in the past, things like if I lose a little bit of weight, I'm going to feel more confident at work, confident out playing my sport, or just in general, confidence in yourself. And that's really important. Okay. How do you want to measure this? Quite often we will look at weight on the scales, but that doesn't necessarily tell the whole picture. Okay. Does it tell us our body composition? We'll talk a bit more about body composition as we go through. Okay. But is that all I need? Do I even need to measure my weight? How about if my goals are to get into a smaller dress or a smaller set of jeans or trousers? If those fit, then I've achieved my goal. Okay. Quite often there's a bit of stigma around being a certain weight. I felt great when I was this weight, but how that weight is made up can vary depending on how much muscle and how much body fat we've got. Okay. Is this for an event or an occasion? You may have followed us on Facebook. We've had a few clients get ready for weddings or things like that. And it's really important. So your drive may be stronger at that point, okay? Or what you're prepared to do, what you're ready, willing, and able to do, may be a little bit greater, okay? And what kind of time frame are you thinking of achieving this in, okay? This is really important when we come to your managing your expectations and what kind of a realistic weight loss is, realistic time frame for certain kinds of weight loss is. So have these questions in your mind when you're really thinking what you mean by I want to lose a few kilos. Okay. So we're going to look at what it means to be healthier. Okay. So some people generally pursue weight loss as a means to being healthier, but what do you mean by healthier? Okay. Do you mean I'm less susceptible to colds, or if we're certainly much heavier, then we have the risk of things like diabetes or heart conditions. Yeah. So does it mean to bring yourself down within that threshold? Okay. But if I'm looking to get healthier, it's very important that I consider, how do I measure this? Okay. And I'm not talking about getting on the scales. I'm talking about, do I go to the doctors and get my blood pressure regularly taken? Do I get blood tests? That kind of thing. If I'm diabetic, I might want to lose weight to hopefully reduce the need for medication. Okay. So I've got to consider these things. All right. What are you specifically concerned about with your health? Is there a family history of heart conditions, or is there something sort of weight related that you need to consider? Okay. And one that I definitely ask myself, is this something that we are equipped to deal with? In my role, AD Watts, and my qualification, I'm only a nutrition coach, and it's very clear that I need to make it very clear that I'm not a nutritionist. Okay, I cannot hand out advice. I'm not a dietitian. I cannot hand out advice for medical reasons. Okay, I can coach you guys on how to make better choices, or getting eating habits established and things like that. But I certainly can't do anything medical. So if it is something like that, again, we use the same kind of philosophy we have with the physical side of things, that if there is an injury that we're not comfortable dealing with, or we don't know how to deal with, or give you the best support with, we refer out. We go to someone who is much more equipped. So again, if we break our goals down a little bit more and understand what we mean by the words we use, then we can start seeing the right people and approaching the task at hand in the right way. Okay. As I said, have a clear idea of what you are working for, and then write it down. I'm a huge fan of writing things down. If it's there in front of you, there's that sort of like that recognition of, that's my goal, that's what I'm trying to work on. Okay. And you can refer back to it. Okay. This is very important. If you are working with a coach or an exercise coach, personal trainer, that you're both on the same page. It's very easy for someone to come up to us and say, oh, I'm looking for weight loss. And we go, oh, they probably mean this. There shouldn't be any probably means at all. There should be, right, I want both of us to work on the same page, know exactly what each other means, and therefore work together on achieving that goal. Okay. Okay, this is something that's very important. When we go on a journey, it's important that we understand what trade-offs or what's required to make these changes. If things were easy, we'd all be there already. Okay, so it's going to require some sacrifice. There is a fantastic infographic by the guys at Precision Nutrition. It's called The Cost of Getting Lean. We have this up at the gym. We have it above our body composition analyzer, the Acunique. Okay. And it really gives a sense of scale of what's required to achieve certain things, and the reference points, if you will. Okay. So when people talk to us about weight loss and what they want to achieve, we like to sort of start to refer quite soon to this chart and pitch people where they're at. Okay. It might be a case of, when we look at, say, I'm going to use a random guy called Bob as an example. Bob comes along and Bob wants to be, James, I see on this chart, I should really have my body fat percentage below 20%. Okay, well, okay, Bob, that's a good goal. All right, in terms of health and all that, there's plenty of benefits to be had. Well, here are the things that are required for you to do that. Okay, and it might be that Bob has to slow down when he eats a little bit. He has to make sure he gets his veg, his protein, and you'll probably have to do a little bit of exercise to achieve it. It's not a huge transition for what Bob might be already doing, but it's knowing what he wants. And Bob goes, Oh, that's more simple than I thought it'd be. I was prepared to do a lot more. Okay, Bob, right, here's the next stage. So an informed opinion of what's required from you and what you're prepared to do allows you to paint a picture of where you can go with it. Okay, so again, consider what your goals are, consider what you're prepared to do. Definitely have a look at that infographic. I'll try and chuck all these links out at the end of the presentation. I'll certainly put them in the comments. They're also available to download on our members page. That's 80watts.com/members. And you should be able to download them from there. There's a great bunch of resources in there. Okay, I'll be referring to a few more as we go through. But yeah, have a look at the infographic, see what you're prepared to do, okay, and see where it relates to you. Okay. Okay. So we're going to come along now to how to assess your diet. Okay, so I'm going to break down that in a bit. But is everyone cool and happy so far? I see a lot more of you joined. Thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it. So yeah, any questions? As I said, chuck them in the comments as we go, and then yeah, I'll do my best to address them. All right, so we're going to look at how to assess your diet. Okay, we need to gather information. All right, we start out with food diaries. Food diaries are a fantastic tool. They're a fantastic tool because they're simple and they're easy to do. I would also argue they're not necessarily 100% accurate, but they give us a starting point. Okay, you can download a food diary from our members page. I keep plugging that, 80watts.com/members, and then yeah, start filling that in. Or if you prefer, you can use one of the apps like MyFitnessPal or something like that, or even take photos of your food. Not for Instagram. We're not talking that kind of thing. We're just talking having a log of what you eat. Okay, because if we've got information, we can then work with that information. Otherwise, we're guessing. I can give you an example. Many years ago, I had a client tell me, "Oh, James, anytime I have a protein shake, I get really fat." I'm like, "Oh, seems a little weird. How do you know that?" And they go, "I just know." Okay. I mean, don't get me wrong. They could be correct, but without gathering that information and processing it and analyzing it, okay, then we can't necessarily jump to that conclusion. All right. So from a food diary, we can get an idea of how much you eat. Okay, as I said, it's as much as possible. It's an educated sort of guesstimate. Okay, to use that terrible word. We also look at how you eat. Okay, so with our food diaries, we like you guys to track things like your feelings at the time. You know, are you rushed? Are you busy? Are you forgetting to eat meals, or you feel tired at the end of the day and like, oh, I just want to relax, and then you overeat, things like that. So sort of stepping into number 3 there, we look at why do you eat. Okay. Emotional eating is something that's huge, and we can very easily drift into it. You've got the cliches of, oh, I feel sad, I'll watch a film and have an ice cream, you know, but it could be more than that. It could be things like, oh, it's the end of the week, guys, let's go grab a beer at the pub. Okay, oh, it's Friday, we always do that. Or, you know, we can easily get set into our routines and get emotional with our food as such. Right. We also look at what you're eating. Okay. And when we're referring to what you're eating, it's like more about the things like the carbs, the veg, the fats, the proteins, but also in terms of quality. Okay. Usually the first phrase I get from people when they talk to me about, oh, here's my food diet. Oh, I eat healthy. I cook everything myself. Well, first of all, fantastic. Well done on cooking things for yourself. That's perfect. That's brilliant. Okay. We don't ideally, we want to avoid as much processed food as possible. But it's not that kind of tipping point, and this is going to come into the pyramid of importance in a sec. It's not the quality of food that is going to be holding you back as such. Okay. How consistently are you doing 1 to 4? Okay. I realized there's a little typo there. It should be how consistently are you doing 1 to 4. This was an in-house presentation I've adapted for you guys. So yeah, how consistently are you doing 1 to 4? And that's it. Okay. So in other words, I'm going to get onto it in a sec. The pyramid of importance looks something like this. Okay. At the base of the pyramid, you have the most important aspects of weight loss or weight gain. Okay. This in itself, energy in versus energy out, is the subject for a whole entire presentation, which I'd love to get to you guys real soon. Suffice to say, I'll keep it super simple. If you have more coming in than you expend or use, you're going to gain weight. If it's about equal, you're going to probably stay about the same. And if you expend more than you take in, you lose weight. All right. I won't go into the science right now unless you guys really want me to, and stick it up in the comments if you do. I'll summarize it at the end. Okay. But I'm not going to go into the things that influence how much we eat and how much we expend. There's some fascinating concepts there and how our bodies react. But yeah, I'll save that for another day. Okay, so if we're not addressing in versus out, okay, it doesn't matter what else we do. Okay, if I'm overeating, no matter how good, how brilliantly home prepared it is, and the best quality food or organic or whatever you're into, yeah, I'm still going to gain weight because that's the law of thermodynamics. That's physics. All right. So if I can address that, I then want to look at things like how I eat. Okay, so how I eat comes back to two core anchor habits. For those of you who have seen our little handouts back at the gym, well, the two anchor habits we really recommend are eating slowly, okay, and eating until satisfied, not stuffed. Okay, and these two are really important because they develop mindfulness. Okay, I'm talking about mindfulness and being aware of what you're eating. Okay. So I can give you a really good example. If you sit down in front of the TV, or better yet, here's an extreme example. If I go to the cinema and I've ordered popcorn, yeah, then it's quite easy for me to eat the whole box of popcorn before the trailers have even finished. That might be 30 minutes. You know, cinemas nowadays tend to go on a little bit. But I can eat because I'm not concentrating on the act of eating. I'm distracted. Okay. It might be the same when I'm doing at home and I'm watching TV. Okay. Again, I can get distracted there. Or it might even be the case when I'm cooking something, I might just, I'll have a little bit of that cheese over there, or I'll have an extra glass of wine. Okay. Not really, again, recognizing how much extra you're getting in. The other thing to be aware of is how quickly we eat. Okay. So there can be certain circumstances where we're busy at work and you have to rush. I've only got 10 minutes for lunch. I need to get something in, and we gobble it down. Okay. But we don't feel great afterwards. Okay. We feel stuffed, bloated, uncomfortable. These aren't good things to feel. I'd freely admit there are certain circumstances that are harder to avoid. Okay. But we should take time with our food. Okay. We should relax and spend about 20 minutes eating a normal meal. Okay. When we do that, it allows our bodies to recognize that we're eating food, and that then the signal from our stomach gets to our brain to tell you that, hang on, you're full or getting nearly full. We can give our bodies the opportunity to catch up. If we go too quick, we can easily overeat, and then the next thing you know is like, hang on, I'm rather stuffed here, and it's too late because your body's still got food going through. Okay. So slow eating and then eating until you're satisfied, not stuffed, is a really important habit. You nail that, and you're much more likely to start losing weight. Then we look at the why of why we eat. Okay, and this can be quite an in-depth area as well. So I'm just going to cover the basics as such. Okay, a lot of the time, if we're not careful, it's very easy to eat food because that's what we do. You know, it's become a habit. Like I said, it could be Friday night beers at the end of the week. It could be, oh, it's Easter. I've got to have an Easter egg. The kids have got an Easter egg. I might as well have an Easter egg as well. It's like, that's not a reason necessary to eat. Okay. It might be that someone's gone to the effort of made you some really nice food when you've gone around to visit, and you feel, well, I'm compelled to eat that. I feel sociably obliged, obligated, sorry, to eat that. Okay, these are all little lessons with themselves that we can break down, but essentially I've got to understand why I'm eating. You know, if I'm cold, I tend to try and get warm. Okay, if I need the loo, I'll go to the loo. When we're hungry, we get all these mixed emotions and thoughts about it, like, oh no, I'm on a diet, I shouldn't eat, or oh, I'm starving, I best eat loads of food, and all that kind of thing. So slowing things down allows us to explore how we feel about food, and then we can start to understand why we're eating what we're eating. It may come as a bit of a shock or surprise, but when we get to the next stage up, we're already 4 stages in. We're looking at what to eat. Okay. Now, what to eat, as I mentioned earlier, is looking at your carbs, your veg, your protein, your fats, and also the quality of it. Okay. We want to minimize the processed food. Okay. Essentially, it is important, but what I really want you guys to take away from this is all the things underneath it are far more important. Okay. Ultimately, when our bodies break down food, protein is still protein, carbohydrate is still carbohydrate. Okay. So if those things are out of balance, then we're in a bit of trouble. Okay. This all needs to be done consistently. Okay, I couldn't really squeeze on this one without sort of disrupting the whole pyramid as such, but we need to be consistent with what we do. Okay, so week in, week out, I need to be regular in the changes that I make, and I'll talk a little bit more about this as we go on. Okay, if you want to consider when to eat, that's the last thing. Okay, the top of that pyramid wasn't as small as I'd like to make it, but when you eat, it has far less significance than all the other stuff. Okay, so always have that in perspective when you're eating. So as I said, just to quickly summarize, how much you're eating, we use the anchor habits. Okay, so we look for satisfied, not stuffed, and we use our portion control guides. Again, this is all available to download on the members site. Okay, how you're eating. Okay, as I said, eat slowly, mindfully, and without distraction. Makes a big difference to how you feel. Ask yourself why you're eating. You know, a few reasons. It could be I feel hungry. Well, that's not a bad reason. Okay, but it's genuine hunger we're looking for. Boredom eating, quite possibly. Okay, certainly given the circumstances at the moment, it's very easy to slip into that. And the same with stress. Okay, peer pressure. Oh, come on, James, everyone's going for a beer. Why don't you come along? It's going to be hard to say no for many reasons, but generally peer pressure and social cues can really make it difficult. Also, we're surrounded by what we call hyper rewarding foods. There's a lot of foods out there that are engineered as such to really taste great, have nice texture and all those kind of things. Okay. I like crunchy bars because they're smooth, and now I'm thinking about a crunch bar, they're nice and sweet, but that food is designed to make me want it. Okay. So it's very hard to resist those kind of things. So it's taking a step back and resist, not resist foods. I didn't want to use that word. Thinking about why we're eating. Okay, what you're eating, as I said before, we want minimally processed protein, veggies, fruits, smart carbs, and healthy fats. Okay, the habit cards that I'm referring to there are available to download on our webpage, 80watts.com/members. Okay, this phrase is vital. If you take one thing away from today, its consistency is king. Okay, boom, I just had a little pop up. Hopefully that's not going to crash. I've just had a pop up on my screen saying that it's going to stop the meeting in 2 minutes. I don't want it to stop. Hopefully you guys don't either. So where was I? Consistency is king. If you take one thing away from today, okay, that is to be consistent. Okay, to do small things regularly is much better than trying to change everything at once, last about a week and a bit, and then go, do you know what? I can't do that, and give up. Okay, it's very easy to fall into that trap. Okay. If you're looking for fast results, okay, then consistency is the key determining factor. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Let's go on a bit. Oops. I have to click on there, don't I? Let's go on a page. Okay. So as I said, if we're keeping food diaries, what gets measured gets managed. Okay, we want to start stacking some habits. So for those of you working with our My Coach system, you'll have seen that a few habits now are starting to stack on top of each other, and you can look back and go, hang on, how consistent am I with those? The conversations I had with quite a few of you at the beginning, you guys go, well, I already get a bit of exercise. I already sleep fairly well. But then if I look at the data, as you guys getting on to like 4 habits and 5 habits to manage, I'm seeing a lot less consistency there, like our weekends go a bit funny and things like that. So what we feel we do all the time may not be the case. And that's really one strong reason to use things like My Coach or keeping a food diary and saying, hang on, how consistent am I really with the changes I'm trying to make? Okay. So what to expect? This is the big one, I feel. It's how to manage your expectations, realistic rates of fat loss and muscle gain. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this fairly well on the screen. Okay, it's a table to show basically what kind of progress you can expect with what levels of consistency. So I'm going to work from the bottom up. Okay, looking at progress in terms of comfortable. Now, I've taken this from a fantastic article, which I'll reference at the end, from Precision Nutrition. Okay, and their data is based on about, well, they've through their coaching system of over 100,000 sort of everyday people like you and me, they've got this kind of data together. Okay, so if I'm fairly consistent, I'm talking about 50 to 65% consistent, then I can expect to get about 0.5% change in my body weight per month. Okay, so for guys, that's around well, a pound at most, probably just under. For women, it's a little bit less. And I'll talk about the differences between men and women in terms of weight loss and muscle gain in a bit. Okay. So that's with 50 to 65%. Now, most of you should be able to achieve that. Okay. And yeah, you'll see that there is a change there, but it's not a huge change. Okay. Reasonable change requires 70 to 85%. Now, if I asked you guys to report on how consistent you feel you would be, I would make the assumption based on my experience that most of you would say you'd fall into that category. Okay. However, if I'm brutally honest, with a lot of food diaries that I've got, it's not this. Okay. I will put my hand up and say I am not 70 to 85% consistent with my diet. Okay. If you look to my weekdays in comparison to my weekends, yeah, you might say my weekdays I'm 70 to 85% consistent. My weekends, that's where it goes a little bit wrong. Okay. Not hugely, but it drags the average down. Okay. And that is important to consider. So with that kind of level of consistency, 70 to 85%, guys, you can expect to get about an average change of 1 to 2 pounds. Okay. And women about 0.8 to 1.65 pounds. Okay. Extreme changes in body weight, 2 to 3 pounds, or women 1.6 to 2.5 pounds. Okay. Now we're talking quite a bit. Okay. This requires high levels of consistency, 90 to 100%. In all my experience of working in the fitness industry as such, I've never seen anyone hit this level of consistency day in, day out. Okay. Usually this is achieved by sort of like top end athletes who have nutritionists working for them, chefs working for them. All they got to do is turn up, eat, and train. Okay. Because that's their job. Okay. What a fantastic way that would be to have everything done for you. But yeah, your job is to be on point. It requires a lot of effort. Okay. It's really important then you guys consider how consistent you feel you can be. Okay. And can you honestly match this all the time? Okay. You could also create a comfortable rate of progress in which you're highly consistent. For example, you could make in your action plan like some simpler changes, something that doesn't require you to do too much. For a lot of people, some of the initial goals I recommend are just increase your protein intake. You tend to feel a little bit more full. It's harder to eat some protein, so you eat slowly. Okay. And that in itself can lead to a bit of weight loss. Okay. If you can consistently do that, in the 90s to 100%, okay, you may find that that's something really easy to do, and you'll get a corresponding sort of change in your body. Okay. I will also put this presentation up on our members page as well, and I'll try and chuck it up in Facebook because there's a lot of links out here into other articles. Okay. As you can appreciate, this whole presentation can span off in multiple directions. Okay. But the bottom line is here. The more consistent you are, the faster your progress will be, and the more fat you'll lose. Okay. That's your incentive to be consistent. Okay. Any presentation I do will have a graph wherever I can get one in. Okay. For those who see my presentations before, I love graphs. Okay. For those of you who don't, you're going to find out I do like graphs. Enough of that. Right, let's get on with it. So realistic rates of fat loss. Okay, fat loss is rarely linear. What that means is it doesn't follow that red line that you've got on the graph there. Okay, the overall goal is to see a downward trend, and this will happen over time. Initially, when we first set out on our journey, okay, it tends to be at our greatest. Okay, and then as we get nearer the end, okay, or we start to get closer to our goal, it'll start to flatten out. Okay. You'll certainly find that it is much faster when you have more fat to lose. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to risk drawing on the screen. Okay. What we're going to look at here is if I break this down into like little months or a couple of month sections. Okay. I want you to imagine that you're on that journey. Okay. And you go, what would I feel? Right. For those of you who record your weight or your body fat, you may identify with a lot of this. If in the first month, I'm like, oh, let's say I've just signed up to gym and I've started watching my weight, I've started watching what I eat. Brilliant. I've seen a massive change here. I feel cool. I feel really good. Okay. Second month comes along, or the next 2 months come along, and I don't get as much of a change. The graph's not as steep there. And as I go on, hang on, this guy's looking fairly flat. Okay. And here, oops, right, looks the same. You could even make the argument in the next few months it actually goes up again. All right. And then you do get a little bit of a drop down here. Okay, so if we zoom too close in on our weight and just get obsessed with the numbers too much, we can lose sight of where we're at overall. Okay, so for those of you, again, using the My Coach app, you have the ability to record your weight on the app itself. And when we're back in the gym, we can record the numbers from the app unique on there as well. And we can take a step back and we can look at this trend. Okay, and we can really analyze it. Okay, so why do we get this kind of shaped graph? Well, initially, the calorie deficit that we need to get weight loss going will lead to weight loss. But as our body becomes smaller, this deficit will decrease, okay, because it's what happens. Your body adapts to the deficit. In other words, you get fitter, your body gets more efficient with everything that you do. You'll have potentially a reduction in the frequency and the intensity of exercise as well. We can be, for want of a better word, we can start to become complacent if we're not careful. Okay, your body likes to keep things fairly stable. The moment we start changing that, particularly if we do things too extreme, then it's going to fight hard to get it back to a kind of stable level. Okay, and I will cover that on a future presentation. So again, it's about making adjustments as you go along. Okay, hopefully that's clear. I haven't just gone too graph crazy. Okay, let's get rid of that. All of those guys. Hopefully you're all still with me. I very much appreciate you joining me this evening, and let me go through this with you guys. Okay, so the leaner you become, the slower your rate of fat loss and the more plateaus you'll experience. If you guys understand that process and expect the disruption that it'll bring to your overall goals, okay, that mental preparation is invaluable. Okay, having the ability to sort of hit the sort of stop button on your emotions, go, hang on, this was expected, I know how to handle this, and then move on is really important. The number of people who sort of start on their weight loss journey, get a few pounds off and feel good, or even a few kilos off, feel good, and then it starts to plateau and then panic and then go, oh, good grief, no, I've got to make a big change. I've got to become vegetarian, or I've got to go on the 5-2 diet, or I've got to go keto. It's like, hang on. This was going to happen at some point. Let's deal with it sensibly. Let's slow things down. Look at what changes we can make. So I keep alluding to this and I don't address it. Sometimes with some of the goals, you may find that you've already got a low body fat level. And if you want to get sort of like a shredded appearance or look a little bit more muscly, or how you fit into clothes, okay, it might require you to gain some muscle. So whilst this isn't necessarily the subject of the main part of the presentation, I did want to touch on it a little bit. And again, it's important to bear in mind a few factors on here, okay? I'm not going to go into too much detail on here. Again, this could be a whole presentation. But initially, when we start training for both men and women, it's quite easy to put on a little bit of muscle. But please note the numbers there. They're not huge numbers. You can't just start stacking on quite quickly in a month or so. These kind of pounds, okay? So a beginner trainer will tend to put on a little bit more muscle than someone who's an intermediate. So what do we mean by intermediate? Someone who's been training for quite some time, got a good few years under their belt. It's harder to gain muscle, okay? And then someone who's advanced, been doing it for many years, getting any change in your body is trying to push it outside of where it sort of is its default or its comfort zone was, so to speak, to use that kind of phrase, okay? So again, it's much like fat loss. Muscle gain is not linear, okay? Progress comes in fits and spurts, especially after the first year of dedicated training. So again, the more you're psychologically prepared for this kind of stuff, the more you can start to use it to your advantage. You can start to make rational, sort of evidence-based decisions. Okay, so here's a big one. Okay, factors that make fat loss harder or easier. Okay, so I think this is a fantastic table. I'll break it down again for you as we go through. Factors that make fat loss harder: being older. Now, the little asterisk by that is basically referring to the fact that fat loss can and does occur at any age. The reasons it could be harder for older people is usually more age related in terms of like their health status, medications, mobility, rather than just age itself. There's all the things that come with being older. The key thing I want to stress with all of this, just because something becomes harder doesn't mean it's impossible. It doesn't mean, well, I might as well not bother. Okay. Sex, being female. Okay. It is harder to lose body fat being female. That's our biology. That's our DNA. Okay. It's to do with hormones. And again, it's not something that says you can't do it. It just is a little bit more difficult. Being smaller, and in this context, if I'm already small, okay, I've got less fat to lose. Okay, so my body is less inclined to lose it. Okay, which kind of treads on the toes of the next one, your body composition. If I'm already relatively lean, it is harder to get leaner. Okay. Current activity levels. If I am not doing much at the moment, okay, then I can't expect weight loss. All right. If I start dieting a little bit because I've seen, you know, some things on Facebook or on the news, and I don't do any exercise, I'm not going to get much of a change. All right. It's usually adding the things together. Exercise and good nutrition helps. Okay. Current activity type. Okay. If I do excessive cardio, but I don't do any sort of resistance training or anything to sort of balance me out in terms of my stress levels, okay, I'm going to find it much harder to lose body fat. Okay. So you'll note a lot of our programs in the gym have resistance training, like small group or team training. We'll always use resistance. It's really important. Okay. So I'm going to go over the page and continue what makes fat loss harder. Then I'm going to come back to what makes it easier. Okay. I stressed it before, but I'll stress it again. Being inconsistent. Okay. You can't do this in little bursts and hope that it will work. You have to be consistent. Again, plug in my coach here. There's a few lessons on sleep. Okay. Ideally, where you can, sleeping less than 7 hours most nights will make it much harder for you to recover, and it will make it much harder for your body to make the changes that you're looking for. And that neatly ties into stress. Okay. Excessive stress or perception that you're under a lot of stress will put your body in a position where it goes, do you know what? Fat loss is not my priority right now. I mentioned hormones earlier. Okay. Things like where we have leptin resistance or low leptin levels, that's to do with hunger regulation. Okay. And insulin resistance will make it much harder for my body to lose body fat. Certain medications and health statuses will again affect our rate of body fat. So again, these are influences. They don't necessarily stop you losing body fat, but again, it is really important that we consider them. If I go back, what makes losing fat easier? Okay, being younger. Okay, that's unfortunately again a factor as such, mainly because we're more mobile, or tend to be more mobile, or potential to be mobile. On average, our health status tends to be a little bit better, and we tend to be on less medications. Being male, again, comes back to the hormones we mentioned earlier, makes it a little bit easier to lose body fat. Being heavier, if I've got a lot of body fat to start with, then my body's going to, again, find it much easier to lose it. And again, in terms of composition, okay, same thing. If I've got more body fat, my body's going to want to get rid of it a little bit more. If I'm very active, okay, and particularly if I'm very active with a well-rounded exercise program, something we endeavor to design for all of you guys, okay, then it's going to be much easier for me to lose body fat. Moving on, being consistent, ideally 80% or more. Okay. Again, I could consult one of the earlier tables and go, well, I'm happy with a little bit less, but then you've got to manage your expectations with that. Sleeping at least 7 to 8 hours most nights. Okay. Sleep in itself has loads of benefits, but in terms of our body composition, it's huge. Okay. I was speaking to a client earlier today about the benefits of that, and that's something they're definitely working on. There's some great articles linked in the My Coach app. Okay. Or again, Precision Nutrition have got some fantastic infographics on that. Managing your stress levels. I can't stress this enough. That's a terrible pun. But bringing stress levels down, or your perception of stress, is really important. Okay. Things like doing sessions like Move and Improve, great way to calm things down. Okay. Going out for walks. If the weather's beautiful like this, go out for a walk and then come back. It's very hard to remain stressed. Okay. It certainly helps bring it all down. When we bring our stress levels down, our hormone profile changes. It's much, much better. Okay. And again, as I said, hormones in healthy ranges means we're much more likely to have a body in a better position to aid fat loss. There are certain medications out there that, good grief, these are all sort of American-based ones, I must admit, that may aid fat loss. I'm not saying go take that. That is not what that's meant to be. Okay, there are things that can influence it. Okay, and obviously having a clean bill of health is essential. Okay, might as well touch on it because I mentioned it earlier. Factors that make muscle gain harder or easier. Okay, what makes muscle gain harder? Being older than 40. Okay, our hormone profile changes quite significantly past that time. Again, being female, I'm sorry, ladies. Again, it's harder to gain muscle. Doesn't mean it's impossible. Having a small frame or bone structure, there's going to be a limit of how much muscle we can stack on there. Having more body fat. Okay. So what we can look at there is, hang on, if I bring my body fat down, it's much easier for me to gain muscle. It's kind of a cruel twist on things. If you get lean and have plenty of muscle, it's easier to stay lean and it's easier to keep muscle. If you're not very active, don't expect to grow muscle. In fact, don't expect to have much muscle at all, to be honest. Okay. Not having enough resistance training and again doing excessive cardio, it's a trap many people fall into. Oh, I've got to run to lose weight. I'll tone up that way. No, you need resistance training. Your body needs a reason to have muscle. Okay, and weight training is that reason. Okay, so again, if you're looking at, you're going back to the goals earlier, if you're considering the shape that you want to be in or fit in certain clothes, you do need resistance training. Being inconsistent, sorry. Again, no surprises there. And again, sleep comes into play, stress levels come into play. High cortisol is a product of that. Okay, if your high cortisol levels do not help you put on muscle whatsoever. Okay, certain medications will make it harder to gain muscle. Okay, and obviously health status as well has an impact there. What makes it easier to gain muscle? Okay, being younger. Just have a quick sip of tea. I'd love to say cup of tea helps, but it doesn't. Doesn't hinder. Being male, it's generally easier for guys to gain muscle. Having a larger frame, larger bone structure, the ability, there's somewhere to pack it onto, so to speak. Being relatively lean, as I touched on earlier, does definitely help increase or make it easier for you to gain muscle. Being moderately active, okay, and in particular resistance training. Okay, there's what we call hypertrophy programs that can help you put on muscle. Okay. Being consistent 80% of the time or more. Okay. You can see that I keep plugging that as well. Consistency is king. Sleeping at least 7 to 8 hours most nights. Okay. And managing your stress levels, keeping your hormones in a healthy range. Obviously, you can take performance enhancing drugs. Don't take in performance enhancing drugs because you'll obviously no longer have a clean bit of health in the future. Okay. So, yeah, let's not be silly. All right. So, I thought, again, I'll just briefly touch on that. Other things to consider, and this is something we consider with you guys when we're coaching you. Okay, what's your stress like? Are you on holiday? What's your social calendar like? And adjust your expectations accordingly. Okay, if you're on a mission to lose weight over Christmas, good luck. Okay, there are going to be quite a few sacrifices. I can tell you one thing: I do not aim to lose weight over Christmas. Damage control is a phrase AD uses, and I quite like that one. Adjust for what you are ready, willing, and able to do. I mentioned that earlier. Okay, I may have great aspirations, but am I really ready to make those sacrifices? Am I willing to make those sacrifices? Do I have the things in place I meant by ready? Am I able to? If it requires me to eat a lot more, okay, protein than I'm comfortable with, okay, that might be not something I'm able to do now. Can I look at doing something else? Track your changes. Use the My Coach app or use the body composition analyzer when we're back in the gym. Okay, or keep records. You know, if you're stats based and you like spreadsheets, by all means do that. But don't get too lost in the numbers here. You know, photos are another one. Just see if you've changed in your photographs, that kind of thing. All right. Brilliant. Cool. Thank you all for still sticking with me. I appreciate this, guys. There's still late of you there, so cool. All right, I won't keep you much longer. We're going to start wrapping things up soon. How to make adjustments. Small appropriate changes and consistency equals success. I can't stress that enough. There's a second sort of takeaway. All right, revisit, recalibrate, and assess. No one can perfectly predict a client's rate of progress, okay? It just doesn't happen. You may have a lot of experience as a coach or seen people make a lot of changes, but that doesn't mean we get to know exactly what you guys can expect. Again, what gets measured gets managed. Use appropriate tools, things like the Acunique clothes size, photos, tape measure, scales, whatever you want to use, but just make sure it's appropriate. And in general, you should monitor results for 2 weeks before you adjust your food intake or action plan. And during those 2 weeks, if those 2 weeks are inconsistent, don't change anything, get more consistent. And if you can't get more consistent, change your goals so you can become consistent. Okay. As you get closer and closer to your goal, it may take 4 weeks for changes to happen. So again, don't hit the panic button. Slow down, take your time, assess the data. Okay. Use the following guides as a way of suggesting appropriate changes, and I'm going to cover those in a sec. And remember, consistency is necessary for these changes to make an impact. Doing lots of erratic things is not what we want to be doing. Okay, so let's break down a few common things. I'm not losing fat within a realistic set of parameters. Okay, then we want to start modifying your diet. Okay, you can decrease your intake by about 250 calories a day. You could do that as measuring grams of carbs or fats, or the much preferred method is like just look at removing 1 to 2 cupped hands of carbs or 1 to 2 thumbs of fat from your daily intake. Okay. Much easier to measure that. And again, I'll reference the habit cards that we've got on the members downloads. You're not gaining muscle within realistic parameters, okay? Then we need to look to increase our intake. We generally want to increase our intake of carbohydrates by about 1 to 2 cupped hands, okay? Or increase fat if that's what you prefer, if you like that more than carbs. Okay, losing too much lean mass when losing weight. So if I crash diet or I, really up the amount of cardio or I make big extreme changes, okay, then I run the risk of losing my muscle. If I lose my muscle, I find it harder to burn energy or burn body fat. Okay, so I want to increase my protein intake by about 25 grams. That would be a really good one to monitor and something we do look at when you guys get on the AccuNeek. If I'm gaining too much fat when I'm trying to add muscle, okay, then I need to increase my protein intake by about 25 grams and decrease my carb intake by about 25 to 50 grams. In other words, or fat. Okay, so again, about an extra palm of protein or a cupped hand or 2 carbs and a thumb or 2 of fats. Take them out. Okay, so again, keep it super simple. Again, I'd run that for 2 weeks, see if that works. Again, be consistent with that. Not recovering from tough workouts or any competitions, okay, use the following steps. Okay, step 1, review your overall daily intake. Okay, you're cutting calories stringently to lose fat, then considering increasing your intake. Okay, so you've just got a slight deficit. We don't want to leave our bodies in a compromised position. I always like to emphasize that whenever we make a change, or if someone tells me they've got a good diet, then I should see 3 things. I should see someone who's very healthy. I should see someone who has good body composition and good performance. If the changes I make in my lifestyle or my nutrition affect that, okay, if I'm trying to really change my body composition, I cut a load of things out and it compromises my health and it compromises my performance, then I've gone too far. Okay, don't sacrifice the 2 for the 1. Okay, so again, if I want to help improve my recovery, review my daily protein intake. Maybe adding an extra palm of protein in a day, or if you finished a workout, grab a small protein shake. Okay, review your carb intake as well. Okay, if we get too low after that, okay, then that's something we might want to increase. Okay, and then finally, step 4, review your daily fat intake. Okay, so fats can be quite good at managing inflammation, and we might want to balance that out. Okay, so again, just a little thing I thought I'd touch on in terms of making adjustments to your diet. Again, there's a good link there on what food should I eat from Precision Nutrition. So to summarize things, let the facts guide you. This type of outcome-based decision-making is a powerful tool for us to see how our actions lead to progress and results. Okay, use the information you have in front of you and develop that information, record it. What gets measured gets managed. I always stumble on that. Okay. Remember, numbers aren't the only way to measure progress. Do not get caught in that trap of getting set on the scales. Okay. Showing up and making any effort, no matter how small, is a good thing. Okay, you can improve your fitness at the same time as doing all of this. Tiny actions that are just a little bit better than before. Progression, not perfection, is how we can put that. Feeling at ease with food. Okay, it's very easy if we're not careful to be on a diet and lose our relationship with food and get a bad relationship with food. And celebrate daily wins. I'm going to give myself a very big pat on the back. Me and Nikki went out for our second run on the couch to 5K. Was it a beast? No, but it didn't need to be. It's a fact that, yep, we did it today. We got it going. Okay, may not sound big to any of you endurance athletes, but if you get me running, that's big. All right. Having more energy. Okay, if things are in place, then you should start to feel much better in terms of your energy levels. Okay, your work capacity, and get stronger and get fitter with that. With all of that coming into play, you feel more confident. Okay, so the scales can't tell you that kind of thing. You have to reflect and think about how you're feeling in yourself. Highlight the bright spots, especially the behaviors and actions and mindset that it took to achieve what you've got. Okay, be proud of it. Progression, not perfection. Okay, massive one. Again, just some sort of almost cheesy cliches, but they're really important to consider. And do the basics consistently. Okay, I've not touched on a whole host of stuff because it's not worth it at this stage. Nail this stuff and you'll get all the changes that you're looking for. And if you're still stuck, there is plenty of other levels to look at, but get the basics sorted. As I said, the references, I've pretty much worked off two key precision nutrition documents. They're well worth reading themselves. I've cut some bit out just to kind of hopefully speed it up a little bit, but some really good points in here. Okay. Cool. All right, guys. That pretty much concludes the presentation as such. I hope you guys have found that interesting. There's still 7 of you with me. Either you've fallen asleep at your computer or you've been absolutely glued to it. I'm around for a little bit of a Q&A. I'm quite happy to go through any questions you guys have. I was keeping an eye on the comments. Other than saying hello to everyone, hopefully you're all still there. Hi, Dad. Hi, Steve. Hi, Eddie. Yeah. If you're all still there, fantastic. If you do have a question, right, pop it in the comments. I'm going to sort of hang around here for a minute or two. If anything comes up there, I'll do my best to address it. If I'm not here when your question comes up, okay, basically just give me a shout and I'll reply back to it. And if it's something that requires a bit more explanation, I might even make a little mini video about it. But I think we're all good. Cool. I can't see anything popping up. So once again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Okay, if there's anything you'd like to see us present on in the future, give us a shout. Okay, if you have any questions or would like me to, or AD or any of the team to go through some of those principles with you or any other principles, then that'd be cool. Excellent, cool. Thanks for sticking with me, Susie. That's much appreciated. All right, guys, cool. All right, I'm off to eat my dinner. All right, have a great evening, and I will see you all very soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.